Well, good evening, friends. Father Frank Pavone here, National Director of Priests for Life. Thank you, Patriots, for being together. We are indeed one from across this great country, and others of like mind joining us from around the world. We come together every evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and we have many other broadcasts throughout the day dedicated to victory in this election, because that means victory for faith, for freedom, for family, for the unborn, for life, and for the very values that America is founded upon. And I want to give you renewed confidence tonight and renewed tools by which you can play your part in winning this election. Many of you are watching on the streams of our close associate here and full-time pastoral team member, Evangelist Alveda King. She works with Priests for Life, has done so for 15 years, and is therefore with us in this effort, and certainly is a joy to work with, and I know that many of you enjoy listening to her. As you also listen to Janet Morana, we had her live show this afternoon at 3:30, and she is our executive director and co-founder of Silent No More. We have a very big ministry, a varied ministry, a family of ministries, all serving you, serving the unborn, serving the kingdom of God, and proudly serving our nation, the United States of America. And I really want to give you some updates tonight on some of the evolving news, and give you the encouragement to know that, listen, we're going to win this election for the president, for the Republican ticket, for life, for freedom, because there's never been such a stark difference. And we have a little over 3 weeks here. Now, many people have already voted. Millions of people have already voted, but tens of millions more are yet to vote. As a matter of fact, this year, there'll be more people voting in this presidential election than in any election in American history. And you see now, look, I've been working on campaigns on the national level ever since I became full-time pro-life leader of Priests for Life back in 1993. So it was the midterms of 1994 that was the first time I was really involved on the national level, and every election since then. I'm in communication with the campaign every single day, and I can tell you the momentum on the ground is, first of all, greater than any political movement in history. This is one of the reasons I'm telling you, be confident in victory. We have to have a mindset here where we're confident of victory and yet realize that every effort, every moment of every one of us is necessary. But it's because we have that enthusiasm. It's because we have that commitment. It's because we've got this in our hands that we will win. Because each of us, we're not just sitting back and saying, oh, let's watch it happen by itself. By no means. Just the opposite. We give this fight every ounce of energy that we can because, as I've said before, the American Revolution itself was not more consequential than this election is. Listen carefully what I'm saying. The American Revolution itself, with which our founding fathers pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. They said, we are fighting for principles, God-given rights. We are fighting for the freedom of the human person. There's nothing greater on earth or in the history of the human family worth sacrificing every ounce of energy and time. It's the same battle right now, because we no longer have two parties that are seeking the same goal but have different ideas of how to get there. We've got two parties that are looking at different goals, different Americas, different sets of principles, different assumptions about morality, different. The Democrats are not looking for the same thing. They're looking to destroy America, destroy the freedom of the church. Just look at their behavior and look at their rhetoric and look at their platforms and policies and the laws that they support. And this is one of the things that we do in these classes, is to educate people precisely about that. This is war. This is not an election. This is war. It is no question about it. There's no two ways about it. And everybody's got to choose sides here. Those that are against the president are against America. You're against freedom. You're against life. You're against faith, because you're empowering people. You might think you're for some of those things. Well, you know how easily the human mind can be deceived. You're empowering people. Those that are voting with the party of death, you're empowering people to take this country off a cliff. You're doing it by your vote. How do you think these people get elected? The people get elected are the people that we vote for. That's how they get elected. And to empower, to encourage, to be part of in any way, shape, or form, not only by vote, but even by one word in favor of this party, this corrupt, deceptive Democrat Party. It's just become evil. It's not my fault, not our fault. Don't blame us. Don't blame us when we say these things. They have embraced evil, and therefore they are worthy of one thing: rejection. So, listen, I've never seen momentum like we see in this campaign. The ground game is absolutely surpassing anything that has happened in human history. And so an interesting comment. Oh, Father Frank, it's not nice to say that. Listen, if it's not nice to say that, it's certainly not nice to do that. They're embracing the killing of babies. They want you and me to pay for it. Hey, it's not nice to say that, but it's not nice to do that. So if they're doing it anyway, who's going to say it? And who's going to stop it if we don't say it? Come on, get on board here. So listen, we got to point out evil. We got to point out corruption. And boy, oh boy, does this party of death have a lot of that to offer. So listen, there's never been a campaign like this. It's a movement. It's a movement. The MAGA movement. It is a movement based on principles that America was founded on. It is a movement based on giving power back to you, the American people. It is a movement that has brought our country to the greatest economy that we've ever had. You know, if the raising of median income for families in America has gone up higher than it has in these past administrations, you think that's a good thing? Vote for the president. You want median, you don't think it's a good thing? Median income of families has gone up way more than under President Obama, way more than under President Bush. You don't think that's a good thing? Well, then let that be known. The Obama administration, Biden right there in position number 2 for 8 years, restricted the freedom of the church, forced ministries like ours to go all the way up to the Supreme Court to defend our right to live out our faith. We're not supposed to have to defend our right to live out our faith in the Supreme Court. This is one of the reasons our founding fathers established this country. Oh, but no, they don't want the freedom of the church. The Democrat Party does not. The Democrat Party considers freedom of religion to be discrimination. Read about it. I have nothing to do with this. Read about it in their platform. Read about it in the Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden in manifesto. Read about it. They think that when you and I say we need to live according to the dictates of Jesus Christ and his gospel in the public square, they're saying, oh, but that's discrimination. Well, because you don't want to treat women the same way and let them get abortions, and you don't want to treat gay couples the same way, to force, not to live their lifestyle, but to force Christians to cooperate in their lifestyle. It's a very different thing. Look up the Colorado Baker's case, Jack Phillips. Look it up. Read about these things. They don't want Christians to have the freedom. They don't want Christians to have the God-given right. They don't want Christians to have the liberty that our founders fought for and established in our Constitution and Bill of Rights. They don't want us to have that anymore. And it's because of things like this. It's because people are seeing, and we're able now to go right past the fake news media. They used to have a lot of power. They still have a lot of influence. They used to have power of control as the only sources of people's information about what was going on. But boy, haven't we done an end round around them through the social media. We don't any longer have to let them dominate the thinking that goes on in America. And that's why the president uses Twitter so much, speak directly to the people without the filter of the fake news and the spin of lies and deception and immorality and darkness. Woe to those, the prophet Isaiah said, who call light darkness and darkness light, who exchange bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to them, woe to them. The president does exactly the opposite. He stands up for what is good. He stands up for what is right. Again, people think it's not good to have the strongest economy in the world. Okay, you can be a fool and think that way. Go right ahead. You think it's not a good idea that the world's head terrorists were taken out by our president? Not by Obama, not by Biden. He opposed efforts to get rid of the world's top terrorists. Joe Biden did. Do you think that's a good idea? Go right ahead. But don't hide your stupidity when you do that. You think it's a good idea that our communities and our nation and our families, your families, are safer? You don't think you're in danger when these worldwide terrorists plot and scheme attacks on our country? You don't think you're in danger from that? And you don't think it's a good thing, for which you should be thanking President Trump for getting rid of Soleimani and al-Baghdadi and the ISIS caliphate? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't vote until you go look it up and read about it, because if you want to take the ridiculous position of thinking that it's a bad thing that he got rid of the world's leading terrorists, well, you know, you're free to take that position, but don't hide the absurdity of that position. You got to go around, you should carry a flag. You know, I take the absurd position. You know, get a flag. You're going to really think that way? You're going to really talk that way? You're going to really vote that way? Of course, what's not too much better is if, you know, you go vote for the nice guy who says he's a devout Catholic, which is a load of garbage, and you don't even know the deeper reasons why there's an entire movement in this country supporting President Trump. How did he get in the first place? It wasn't the political establishment. So listen, what I'm saying is, and I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg here, there's so much enthusiasm. That's why, you know, we should be extremely confident. There's so much enthusiasm. Sure, a lot of people answer polls and say, oh yeah, I want to vote for Biden, vote for the Democrats. You know what that's measuring? That's measuring how easy it is to say that. It's measuring ignorance. It's measuring delusion. It's measuring corruption. It's measuring immorality. Because again, you join hands and you give support and power to a party that supports a Holocaust, you're supporting that Holocaust. Explain to me how it's different than that. You want to go in support of a party that wants to destroy our borders and let every Tom, Dick, and Harry come across the border without vetting them for any kind of criminal intent, violent intent, infectious diseases. You know, what hypocrisy from the left to be criticizing President Trump as if he's going around spreading the virus, or criticizing a gathering at the White House because some people got infected with COVID-19. What about people coming across the border with coronavirus, or coming across the border with other kinds of infectious diseases? And unlike what is done with everybody who goes anywhere near the president, they're not being tested. In fact, the Democrats are saying, no, you don't even have to ask them anything. Let them come in. Hey, open the borders. Tear down the wall. Let them come in. Let them come in and do what? You're going to welcome them for dinner at your table in your house when you don't know who in the world they are, where they came from, or why they came? You know, we can go on and on with this. I just want to give you some news updates here. But friends, listen. The number of doors that are being knocked on and phone calls being made by the Trump team, and we're going to show you some ways to get involved here in a moment, so far surpass what they did in 2016, so far surpass what the Biden campaign, if you can even call it a campaign, I don't know if you can, is doing. It dwarfs it out of all proportion. So today, let's take a look on the screen at the letter today that was issued. Well, actually, it's dated yesterday from the president's doctor. I released the following information with the permission of President Donald J. Trump. Today, the president has completed his course of therapy for COVID-19 as prescribed by his team of physicians. And then it gives good vital signs there. And then he says, since returning home, his physical exam has remained stable and devoid of any indications to suggest progression of illness. Overall, he's responded extremely well to treatment without evidence on examination of adverse therapeutic effects. Saturday, this is tomorrow, will be day 10 since Thursday's diagnosis. And based on the trajectory of advanced diagnostics the team has been conducting, I fully anticipate the president's safe return to public engagements at that time. Now, this is by Dr. Sean Conley, physician to the president and commander in the U.S. Navy, and the team of physicians that has been treating the president. Now, the Democrats like to say, and they said it the other night through the liar and deceiver Kamala Harris at the vice presidential debate, which Vice President Pence did a great job exposing her lies. They said, oh, well, we follow the science. We believe in the science. Well, they believe in the science except the science of this medical team saying that the president is fine and saying exactly what I just read to you, and that he can return safely. I fully anticipate the president's safe return to public engagements at that time, i.e. tomorrow. So the left and the Democrats, and those who follow them, those that have the misfortune of following them, you have a choice to make. You're going to follow the science or not. You're going to give deference to the science or not. The treatment that the president underwent did not involve any fetal cells, embryonic stem cells, or anything unethical. This is the second thing that I want to make clear to you, because the story is going around out there about this, and it's not the case. The president, as a matter of fact, has been doing more than any other administration in exactly the opposite direction. Are you not aware of what happened in June of 2019 when he stopped the government funding of research that involves fetal tissue? I mention this because there are some of you are more tuned into this particular issue than others. And it's only one of the battlefronts on which the Trump administration has advanced morality, and we are proud of that. It's amazing how some people ask us, right, well, how can you support President Trump? And some people, the really deluded ones, say, oh, shame on you for supporting him. No, shame on you for not supporting him, and shame on you for supporting all the immoral and deadly and destructive activity, morally unethical, anti-American, anti-life, anti-God, anti-freedom, anti-family garbage that the Democrat Party spouts. Shame on all of you for doing that. But the fact of the matter is, like, for example, in this matter here, now some people will just, they'll hear something and they'll just go spouting it out and spreading it around as if the president took a medication that was derived in some immoral fashion from fetal stem cells. It wasn't. It wasn't. And Dr. David Prentice, whom I know, who also serves on the ethics advisory board that looks at proposals for government funding. Recently, they looked at 14 of them, and they applied the president's standard that these shall not involve any use of the body parts or other kinds of tissue from aborted babies, and rejected 13 out of the 14 recent proposals. This was what I mentioned about June 2019. The president had this policy enacted through the Department of Health and Human Services and other federal agencies involved in this, convened an ethics panel. This is, We're not ashamed of anything here. We're proud of this. Convened an ethics panel to study research proposals coming from outside the government to say, is anything being done immoral here that you're asking us to fund? And they rejected 13 of the 14 proposals based on the president's ethical guidance, his insistence that the ethical guidance of people like Dr. David Prentice and 14 other people who are on this ethics advisory board, and I know a number of them together with David, and they're making it clear how committed this administration is to doing things in an ethical way. And so Dr. Prentice responded to this current question of, did the medication that the president take involve any of this unethical activity? And he said, no human, I'm quoting him now, no human embryonic stem cells or human fetal tissue were used to produce the treatments President Trump received, period. And then they cited the medical research from the experiment. You can look all this up. It's a good article on lifenews.com about it. You know, the irony here is, if the president had not gotten treatment, he would have been criticized, right? Why aren't you getting treatment? You're endangering other people. If the president gets treatment, he's criticized, not by our good people who are concerned, if the ethical concerns are legitimate in and of themselves. I'm talking about by the people who oppose him and try to divide the ethical pro-life people of our country, try to divide them from the president. See, that's those are where the lies and the ill will come in. Well, talking about lies and ill will, let's look at a third problem here. Well, the Commission on Presidential Debates. What a joke this has been. And some of you were asking already in the comments, what's going on with these presidential debates? First of all, they started way too late this year, and I pointed this out the other night. The first presidential debate was, the campaigns agreed to 3, and there usually are 3 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debate. That's the normal pattern in these elections. But they started on September 29th. And the reason that's too late is that the voting started on September 4th. How does that make any sense? Have the debates before the people start voting. The purpose of having the debates is to allow the American people to listen to the choices that they have. See how they engage the issues, right? And then make their informed choice. Informed choice. It's not supposed to be throwing darts on a board, throwing dice, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We're supposed to go into the voting booth with an informed understanding of who these people are, who their parties are, what their positions are, what their platforms mean, the implications it has for our families, our future, our freedom, our church. The commission was biased because, first of all, when the Trump campaign said, why don't we put the debates earlier or add a 4th one early in September, Biden campaign didn't want to agree to that, and the commission said, we have to have everybody agree. Well, apparently, we don't have to agree because they unilaterally took action to cancel the second debate. Because what they did was they unilaterally, they didn't ask the agreement of the campaigns, they unilaterally said, we're going to make it into a virtual format. Now again, these leftists and Democrats, we follow the science. So here's a little tidbit of science, the letter we just read from the president's doctors and his medical team, saying he's symptom-free and safe to return to public activities. Oh yeah, they follow the science all right. Real good. They're really good at following the science. Because now they want to say, by the way, what science was behind this plexiglass in between Kamala Harris and Vice President Pence the other night? That was kind of ridiculous. I didn't see any kind of scientific basis for that. But in any case, these people don't know what they're talking about. They insult our intelligence day after day. The Commission on Presidential Debates describes itself as a nonpartisan group, but I want to call it out a little bit. I want to call out some of these partisans here. Many of the chairs and members of the board of directors of this so-called nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates have donated to Democrats and have made disparaging comments about the president. Okay, guys and girls, CPD, Commission on Presidential Debates, co-chair Frank Fahrenkopf. Hey there, Frank, how you doing? What I learned in 2016, which was an odd year, was that the American people are not necessarily going to vote for who they think is the smartest person. Did they vote for you there, Frank? Co-chair Dorothy Riddings has contributed at least $9,000 to Democrats over the years. Okay, co-chair Dorothy, how much have you donated to Republicans? Kind of, you balance it out, don't you? Co-chair Kenneth Wollock, here's another one, criticizing the president, donating over $5,000 to Democrats. I bet they invite you to a couple of cocktail parties there, right, Ken? Have some suggestions whispered in your ear for the campaign on Commission on Presidential Debates. Jane Harman, here's another one, appalled by the president. Appalled. You know what I'm appalled by? Democrats who kill babies and want us to pay for it. That's what I'm appalled by. Democrats who suppress the freedom of the church and want to haul ministries like ours into court just for living out our faith and not including abortion in our health insurance plans. That's what's appalling. Appalling, catch and release, sanctuary cities. The criminals, violent criminals, people guilty of murder. You catch them? Oh, you're guilty of murder. Okay, we're going to let you go, roam the streets, go into whatever city you want, but just come back in 2.5 years for your court appearance. This is what the Democrats stand for. And meanwhile, these people are roaming around in, well, the same cities that your children are in, same places that your family walks and shops and goes to the movies and goes to the beach. Same communities get these violent criminals that the Democrats release right back into the mix. They don't care. They don't care. They can't clean up their cities, these Democrat cities. The worst run cities in this country are governed by Democrat mayors. The worst states by Democrat governors. What's the matter with these people? Why do we elect these people? Why do we talk about, well, you want to know what's appalling? It's appalling that people even can continue to give any support whatsoever. What's appalling, Jane Harman, is your $30,000 donated to the Democrats. You have blood on your hands, and it's red. Antonio Hernandez, there we go. He's another Democrat donor. That stupid comment he makes. There is a great deal of fear and a great deal of anxiety in the country. What about the fear and anxiety of those who see the Constitution ripped to shreds and redefined and rewritten every time a Democrat judge hands down a decision and has absolutely no basis in the Constitution, tears apart the right to life, tears apart religious freedom, wants every Tom, Dick, and Harry to come into the country without any requirements whatsoever? These Democrat judges are a disgrace. Democrat-appointed judges who have no regard for God or for faith or for the prayer or religious symbols in public life. Yeah, a great deal of fear and a great deal of anxiety. How about a great deal of fear and anxiety when your party talks about defunding the police who protect our families, children, communities, and churches? You want to talk about fear and anxiety? How about the fear that people have for the moral direction this country takes whenever Democrats are in power? Fear and anxiety. Oh, yeah, as if, the president has a monopoly on creating fear and anxiety. Brothers and sisters, this is all such garbage that it's truly beyond belief. Minot has said that the president's comments disqualify him as commander-in-chief. Comments. Yeah. What about being disqualified as commander-in-chief because you no longer believe in America? How can you command the army of a country if you're letting that army go to go down to nothing instead of strengthening it. The Democrats have done a terrible job governing in this country. And don't talk to me about qualifications for commander-in-chief. And meanwhile, Newt over here, oh yeah, he's serving right there on this commission on presidential debates. Here's another one, Richard Parsons. Part of the Barack Obama and Joe Biden transition team. Oh yeah, he's going to exercise a lot of neutrality and objectivity when he does the work that he does on this commission on presidential debates. And another one, Olympia Snow, again, speaking against the president. These comments from the commission's leadership prove their inherent bias against the president. Moving on to another topic, before I give you some practical things that you can do for this election. And you know, it's another, another key contrast, by the way, between the Democrats with all their deluded followers and the Trump administration is the right of all of us to speak our mind on these things. President Trump says to the clergy, we want to hear what you have to say to America, and feel free to speak that word. Now, you know, Martin Luther King Jr., you know, Alvida's uncle, the night before he was assassinated, he had some clergy there in the audience, and he said to them, listen, we need a relevant ministry. We need a relevant ministry. We need a ministry that takes the word of God and doesn't just talk about heaven, talks about earth, talks about how things are going to improve here on earth. That's what we do with you in these sessions. Some people wonder why I talk about politics, and you know, they say, oh, aren't you supposed to be talking about God? I am talking about God, creator of heaven and earth. I am talking about God who said, carry out everything that I have commanded you. I am talking about God, the King of kings and the Lord of lords, the Lord of every nation. I am talking about God who appoints ministers to serve in public life and to safeguard the rights of people and protect us to live peaceful and godly lives on this earth. Have we not read the word of God and learned these things? People that think that things of God and things of politics are disconnected are part of the problem. That's why our politics have become so pagan. That's why our public policies have departed from God, because they have this idea in their head from the beginning that God and politics are supposed to be separate. You think from the beginning that God and politics are supposed to be separate, you're going to end up with a politics separated from God. Does that make any sense? So, brothers and sisters, no, we will not be quiet about political things, and people shouldn't be asking us to or expecting us to, because the person who thinks that God and politics have nothing to do with one another and that the clergy should steer clear of political commentary, I got news for you. You understand neither politics nor God. You don't understand either religion or the things of the state. You don't understand the things of the church or the things of the state. You got a completely twisted understanding of these things. Now, another indication that the Democrats are completely unworthy of our votes and incapable of governing this country is what Nancy Pelosi and her team over there in the House of Representatives have tried to cram into this stimulus bill. You know, you wonder, why has there been no progress that the Congress can bring a bill to the president that he wants to sign to give. He wants to give more help than either the Democrats or the Republicans are offering up in this new latest version of a stimulus bill to help us continue as a nation to recover from this this pandemic. But you see, the problem here is rather simple. The president says, give me a bill that funds our efforts to overcome the virus. Give me a bill that overcomes the damage that's been done to the economy by the virus. By the virus. It's a medical problem. It's not inherently a weakness of the economy. It's a medical problem. We had to deliberately close down the economy. And again, the critics of the president, you know, they're so insincere and so hypocritical, because on the one hand, if he hadn't taken steps, historic steps, decisive steps, effective steps to shut down the economy in order to protect the American lives, they'd be blaming him for taking American lives, which of course they blame him for anyway. But then if he does take steps to save American lives by shutting down the economy, they blame him for a bad economy, which is the last thing to blame him for, because he's given us the strongest economy in our history and in the world. And as it opens up again, it's skyrocketing in strength. And you know, you can't have it, the critics of the president cannot have it both ways. You can't be criticizing him for not taking action and then criticizing the results of the action he takes. But what I'm pointing out here is that in the bill that the Democrats are proposing, they're putting all sorts of other things in that bill, so that when the president signs off on the bill in order to help to get rid of the virus and turn the corner and rebuild the economy, they'll be getting money for all kinds of pet projects and left-wing ideological goals. Let me mention a few of those things that are in here. New tax credits for solar and wind energy, increased collective bargaining, impose requirements on states for early voting, voting by mail, required mailing of absentee ballots to everyone, ballot harvesting, that is having third parties deliver the absentee ballots, online voter registration, same-day registration, and other practices that undermine confidence in the integrity of the ballot. Publication of corporate pay statistics and race statistics for all corporate boards. $300 million apiece for the National Endowment of the Arts and the National Endowment of the Humanities. $35 million for the John F. Kennedy Center of Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. I thought we were trying to overcome a virus. What are all these other things? What are these other things doing in here? Increasing the collective bargaining power for unions, increasing the use of minority-owned banks by federal offices, canceling the debt owed by the U.S. Postal Service to the U.S. Treasury. Some things in here thrown in for the global warming crowd. Increased fuel emission standards, required carbon offsets for airlines, tax credits for alternative energy programs. For students, provision for student loan payment deferment, educational bureaucrats who overcharged them $9.5 billion giveaway to colleges and universities. Now, it's not all of these that all of these things are necessarily things that should not be considered separately, but the problem here is they're putting all of these other goals into a bill that's simply supposed to help us overcome the effects of this pandemic. $100 million to juvenile justice programs, suspending various aspects of enforcement of immigration laws. See, the Democrats have their agenda, and they're so blatantly trying to stuff into a stimulus package to help us get on the other end of this pandemic. They're so blatantly trying to stuff it with all these things. And then they're going to criticize the president for not signing a bill. They can't even send him a bill. You know, I mean, I'm telling you what, this is on full display. I mean, anybody that doesn't realize what's going on here, it's their own fault. They're not doing their homework. Speaking of homework, I want you to have every confidence in victory in this election. There is momentum, there is an army out there, there is enthusiasm when you see people coming together in these immense gatherings, and flags and parades, boat parades and caravans and rallies and supporters of the president. You know, 4 years ago, we shocked the political system. I was one of the early endorsers of the president. We shocked the political system with this victory, because it was the unlikely voters who came out. See, polls poll likely voters if they're good polls. Otherwise, they just, you know, if you poll any adults, that doesn't tell you how an election is going to turn out, because that's not how we decide presidential elections. We don't decide them by popular vote. We decide them by electoral college. But the point is that, you know, we shocked the system. because the unlikely voters came out, and yet this was a man who had never held political office. So it wasn't like they were responding to a job well done, right? It wasn't responding to a job well done. It wasn't because there was a long track record of accomplishments in elected office. They came out and voted for him despite that, because he was speaking their language and making sense in the way that other politicians weren't making sense. Well, now that sentiment hasn't gone away, because the president makes more sense than ever, and he talks and he resonates with the American people. And those that don't understand that, those that laugh at that, those that mock that, those that say we should be ashamed of supporting him, be careful what you say, because all you're doing is manifesting your own disconnect from the American public and from the principles that we stand for and fight for. You're only manifesting your own disconnect from the fact that you have someone here who's fighting for you, who's bringing back more freedom and more power to you. You know, people who criticize our support of the president, my goodness, how utterly disconnected they are. Shame on them for not doing a little bit of a better job and getting on the right side of history here. We made history. We're going to make history again, because that enthusiasm hasn't gone away. It hasn't. If anything, it's increased. It's increased because, brothers and sisters, now we do have a track record. We have a tremendous track record of accomplishments for the president. And again, I want to encourage you to go to promiseskept.com. Promiseskept.com. We're always going to give you a lot of tools here as we talk. We're always going to give you a lot of practical information. We're always going to give you a lot of websites that you can use, we want you to use, especially in these next, I can't believe it's only 3.5 weeks here left until Election Day. And now it's time to really step on the gas, really get out there each and every day. What can I do to reach more voters has got to be our dominant question. So I'm going to show you now how you can help and some of the practical tools to help the campaign. Let's go to a website here. First of all, the Trump campaign itself, DonaldJTrump.com. And that's the website. And at the top, you can see various links right across the top there. And you can see in the middle, it says events. We're going to look at that first. And when you click at the top of the website, DonaldJTrump.com, events, let's see what we find. Here is where you can find upcoming events that the Trump family or the vice president or various heads of the different coalitions of the campaign will be having, and they're in chronological order, though you see there some events that were happening even tonight, Lara Trump and others having on. Some of these events are online. It'll tell you that. It's virtual. When you click the get tickets, you're connected to, how you can watch these things online. And then it has events in different cities. So you see some things coming up in Pennsylvania tomorrow. You see the vice president is going to be here in Florida tomorrow. You see all these different events. Again, they're in chronological order. You can see what they are. You can follow them online. You can go to them, show up in person, or tell other people about them who might want to show up in person. And it goes on and on for pages and pages and pages. So that's the events tab on DonaldJTrump.com. Now let's go back to the main page. And I want to show you up at the top where you see those main categories. Coalitions. You see the second one there says coalitions. Now, what is a coalition for the campaign? Let's click on that and we'll see some examples. The Trump campaign is a movement. It is not simply a political campaign. It is a movement founded on a doctrine called MAGA, Making America Great Again, Keeping America Great. See, we believe that America is great. That's one of the key distinctions between us and the Democrats. They don't believe America is great. They don't believe it ever was great. Shame on them. shame on those who support them. We are Americans. We are patriots. We are proud of this country and of its history. We know we all have flaws, just like we as individuals have flaws. But for goodness sake, there's no other country in the world founded on the ideals and principles that America is, or that has become such an exceptional nation. Why do we end up being the destination that most people throughout the world want to come to? See again how the Democrats contradict themselves with utter hypocrisy, shaming and blaming and looking down on and criticizing America, beating their breasts. Oh, how terrible a country we are. Oh, but then when it comes to immigration, open up those borders and don't let anyone be refused the right to come into this country. Why on earth do you think they want to come in the first place? Because they don't share your idea of how bad America is. America's so bad, so evil, so corrupt. Why on earth do so many people come here from every corner of the earth? So stop the hypocrisy. You can't have it both ways. But we are a movement. Okay, so I'm explaining what these coalitions are. Within that movement, there are obviously many different demographics. President Trump is supported by men, by women, by youth, by blacks, by Hispanics, by Indian Americans, and by Irish Americans, by Catholics and evangelicals, and people of all different professions, and farmers and truckers and cops, and supported by veterans, and on it goes. So when you look at these different demographics of the American people, the Trump administration, the Trump agenda, and the MAGA doctrine say specific things to these specific groups. What he has done, for example, for the veterans has been amazing. He's got a 91 now. The Veterans Administration and is getting a 91% approval rating because he has passed VA accountability. There were people working in the VA that were not doing a good job and were in fact doing harm to the vets that they were supposed to be serving, and they couldn't be fired under President Obama for whatever technical reason. President Trump changed all that and fired 9,000 of them. And VA Choice, instead of having the vets stay online for medical help that would take too long to get, he said, listen, you have the choice. Go to whatever medical provider you want and send us the bill. So in other words, what I'm saying, using the vets just as one example, or the cops for Trump. Oh my goodness. What he's doing, he's gotten the endorsement of police officers around the country. He asked Joe Biden the other night, how many police associations have endorsed you? And Biden couldn't open his mouth to say a single word. Because none of them have. Because they don't believe in supporting our law enforcement. So the fact of the matter is that the Trump agenda supports and encourages and helps various different groups of people in various different ways. And that's the idea behind these coalitions. That, and you can, you'll fit into more than one of these. It's not just that you're choosing one. But I'm going to go through the full list of them here. You join these coalitions in order to show your specific support for what the president is doing for these various demographics, and you may belong to one or more of them, and to get information from the campaign about the agenda for that particular group of people, and then to spread awareness among your fellow citizens who also belong to that demographic. Let them know how much good the president and his agenda are doing for that particular group, and then participating in events that bring people from those particular groups together. So this is what the coalition. So let's look at what they are and how we join. The first one on the top of the list there, it says Women for Trump. Now I want you to notice right on the right-hand side after it says Women for Trump, next to that it says the 2 ways that you join that coalition. And this is the case for all these coalitions. There are 2 ways to join. Let's hover over those words, text Empower to 88022. Now, 88022 is the text number for all of these coalitions. Easy to remember. I ask you to memorize it right now, 88022. And then you text a different word for each coalition to join it. So for women, it's empower, because the Trump administration and campaign have had an empowerment for women agenda for a long time, and doing that in a very beautiful way that has helped a lot of people. Empower is the word that gets texted to 88022. So that's one of the ways you join, because once you text that word to that number, you begin getting updates. You'll be on the inside track of the campaign. You'll be asked to help in various ways, but you'll be getting information. The other way you can join, and we'll take a look at the site. You see it says visit site. So let's click on that. This is the specific microsite, as it's called, for the Women for Trump. Now, each of these coalitions has an advisory board. I have proudly served on some of these advisory boards, both in the first and in the second campaign of Donald Trump, the Catholic and pro-life advisory boards specifically. We'll see those in a moment. But you see here the members of the advisory board, and then if we scroll down, you see they have different events. So these are the events. Now, a moment ago, we were looking at the page of events for the Trump campaign overall. But here on the microsite of the coalition, you see the events specific to that coalition. So this Sunday, day after tomorrow, in Duluth, Minnesota, there's a Women for Trump bus tour. And you can get tickets for it by clicking right there. Virginia, Minnesota, that is, also on Sunday. A bus tour, Women for Trump. Then there's one in New Mexico on Wednesday, and on it goes. Then you have news, various op-eds and special news stories related to that coalition. So women, join up on Women for Trump. Join up, and it also has an Instagram there, down there you see. Go back down, you'll see that Instagram address, Women for Trump 20. So these various coalitions also have their own Instagram accounts. Very often they have their own Twitter accounts, so connect with them in those places, Facebook pages and so forth. You'll see them. Okay, go up. Let's go back to the coalition's page, and let's just look. And I want you to, as we look at this, my friends, think about two things. Do you fit into one of these coalitions? Or do people that you know, friends, family, co-workers, associates, fellow parishioners in your churches, who do you know that fits into these coalitions? Because then I want you to point them to this page and show them these coalitions and encourage them to join. Look at the second one, Latinos for Trump. They are doing a fabulous job all around this country. And the word there, the key word there is vamos, which means let's go. Vamos to 88022. So if you text that word to 88022, you're joining the Latinos for Trump coalition. Or again, you have a little microsite there that you can join by going there and filling out the form on the site. Let's go down the list and let's see these other coalitions. Black Voices for Trump, of course, our associate Alveda King is very much involved in that. Then we have the Veterans for Trump that we were just talking about. God bless our veterans, and God bless President Trump for all he has done for our veterans. Evangelicals for Trump, okay? Cops for Trump. God bless our law enforcement. You're going to do really well under the Republican ticket. Again, the law enforcement has shown its great appreciation for the president and his support of them as they defend all of us and protect all of us. Democrats for Trump. Well, look at that. Some of the Democrats who have come to realize that the party no longer represents their values. Pro-life Democrats are flocking to and voting for the president. Doesn't mean necessarily that they're leaving the party, but that they realize that the president's agenda is serving their beliefs much better than the Democrat Party of today. Pro-life Voices for Trump. Of course, I'm very involved in that one. Pro-life is a winning issue, and we've never had a more pro-life president. Then we go down, we see Workers for Trump. Irish Americans for Trump. I'm sure many of you fit into that category. Greek Voices for Trump. America's Sheriffs for Trump. Catholics for Trump. Now, brothers and sisters, we've got on the other side a man who says he's Catholic, but there's nothing in our Catholic faith that tells us that we're supposed to vote for somebody just because he or she is Catholic. We're supposed to vote for somebody because they can fulfill the job description of the position for which we're voting for them to occupy. And Donald Trump does a far better job of upholding Catholic teaching, starting with the freedom of the church and the very right to life, than Biden does, who opposes both of those things and also opposes school choice. President Trump supports school choice, which is a key value for the church. If parents want to send their children to a Catholic school, why should they be burdened more by doing that than sending them to a failed government school? And the president is on the right side of the Catholic teaching on that one. What about the church's rejection of socialism? Democrats are taking us right down the path of socialism. That's not a Catholic value. And on we can go with that. So Catholics for Trump. Military families for Trump is another coalition. And then look at this next one, moms for Trump. Isn't that beautiful? He loves and supports and defends and protects motherhood in so many ways. Asian Pacific Americans for Trump is another coalition. Lawyers for Trump. Now, many of you out there are lawyers or you know lawyers. And one of the key things that Lawyers for Trump, and you join that one again, you see the two ways you can join, by texting or by visiting the site and registering there. Text JUSTICE to 88022. Let me say a word here about the Lawyers for Trump. One of the key things they are mobilizing in doing is to be ready to defend the integrity of the ballot, to be ready to fight against the Democrats' effort to steal this election by fraud, being ready to protect the electoral process, being ready to challenge unfair practices coming from the other side. We need, and we have, and we need more of an army of attorneys ready to help in these ways. And we're already winning a lot of court battles in a lot of states. I'll give you a further update about this over the weekend. A lot of battles in a lot of states are being won because the Trump administration and the Lawyers for Trump are helping, are introducing legal challenges to the efforts of some Democrat governors to change the rules of the election at the last minute. Millions of people have already voted. We are only 3.5 weeks away. This is no time to be changing the rules about how elections work or about how long after Election Day you can be returning the ballot or filling out the ballot. There's a reason why election days have deadlines. And the Lawyers for Trump, you know, if you're a lawyer, you're for the president, sign up for the Lawyers for Trump and learn more about what's going on. It's very important in these next few weeks. We need your expertise to defend the fairness and legality of these elections. Let's go down. Latter-day Saints for Trump. God bless our Mormon brothers and sisters. Jewish Voices for Trump. You see there the picture of the president making history, the first sitting president to visit the Wailing Wall and to pray there. This man has done more for Israel, which is the only democracy over there in the Middle East, our strongest ally, our great friend, and spiritually our brothers and sisters in the faith of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the law of Moses. Text Shalom to 88022. And my goodness, this president has been such a great friend of Israel with the peace accord that has been made with Israel and the United Arab Emirates, and the nation of Bahrain and other nations are lining up to be part of that as well. Transferring our embassy to Jerusalem, which past presidents promised to do, but they didn't do. President Trump pulls it off. Jewish Voices for Trump, very important. Polish Americans for Trump. Trump Pride. Farmers and ranchers for Trump. Truckers for Trump. Now you get into these various different professions here. And firefighters for Trump. Hindu Voices for Trump. Indian Voices for Trump. Italians for Trump. That's my particular background. I'm 100% Italian. German Americans for Trump. Gun owners for Trump. The president has been very strong about protecting our Second Amendment. Democrats, they'll destroy it. There's no question about it. They'll destroy it. Serbian Americans for Trump, medical professionals for Trump. You know, God bless them, the medical professionals. So often they are pressured to be involved in unethical activities like abortion. The president has done more than any other president to protect the conscience rights of medical professionals, medical students. He has, in fact, established a new division. Did you know this? A new division under the Office of Civil Rights of the Department of Health and Human Services to take the Office of the Division for Conscience and Religious Freedom to take complaints from medical professionals and others who feel that their rights are being violated, their consciences being forced to do things that they don't believe in, and has investigated and taken action on behalf of medical professionals who have been violated in this way. And the president and his administration are just very, very serious about defending conscience rights. They've done a number of things, like I just described, setting up an entire office for this. Go to hhs.gov and see more about the Office of Civil Rights and the Division for Conscience and Religious Freedom, and you'll see what I'm talking about. They have press releases there of the actual intervention and enforcement action they have taken to protect the consciences of our great medical professionals. We continue with Muslim Voices for Trump, Chaldeans for Trump, Sikhs for Trump, Albanian Americans for Trump, Assyrians for Trump, sportsmen for Trump, and Ukrainian Americans for Trump. And brothers and sisters, please take some time to go through this yourselves. Again, let's highlight that web page address up there in the address bar. It's donaldjtrump.com/coalitions. donaldjtrump.com/coalitions. Okay, so let's now go to another website that I want to point your attention to, and that is armyfortrump.com. What we've been looking at is donaldjtrump.com, but now we go to armyfortrump.com. And I just want to show you that if you go here, and I want to urge you to do this, brothers and sisters, give a hand directly to the campaign in these coming weeks. You can go to armyfortrump.com, and if you scroll down here, see it says fight with President Trump, because he's fighting for us. Go down and you will see join the Army for Trump. There's various different activities that you can do in these next 3.5 weeks. This is what makes the difference. This election is so winnable. We've got so much enthusiasm. The Trump campaign has far more volunteers than it had even 4 years ago. Surpassed that mark a long time ago, actually. Look at some of the things you can do. Become a digital activist. Okay, so if you spend time on social media, as I presume many of you do because you're watching me on your social media right now, you can become a digital activist for the campaign. You can make phone calls. Now, you'll get training on this. It's a pre-selected list of voters. You'll be given what to say to them. We need help with making phone calls, knocking on doors. You know, this face-to-face contact with the voters is so effective in getting them out to the polls, in helping them understand the candidates. Trump campaign has been knocking on doors for 1.5 years for this campaign now. Biden's campaign only started a couple of weeks ago, believe it or not. Making calls, knocking on doors, registering voters, hosting a MAGA meetup. That just means gathering some people in your home for a little informational or educational session. You'll be given training and help on doing all these things and becoming a bundler. Okay, it has to do with fundraising. Let's just take a deeper look at this. Let's click on Become a Digital Activist. Oh, there's even more things down there. Let's become a digital activist. Let's click that and see what you'll find. Scroll down and you'll see that you'll have a number of videos there explaining what the campaign is doing on various platforms. So the first one is Team Trump on Instagram. Team Trump, by the way, is the address of the Instagram account and the Twitter account. Official Team Trump is the address for the Facebook account. So Team Trump on Instagram, Team Trump on Twitter. Make sure right now that you're following those accounts. And Official Team Trump is Facebook. You follow those accounts. Here's what this means. So you can see these brief videos. They'll explain some of the things they're doing. They show you, scroll down a little bit more. They show you hashtags, Facebook, and next steps, who to follow, enlist. Take the time, my friends. Please take the time. Click on each of these videos. Watch this. Follow the links. Because when you get connected, for example, with the Team Trump, Instagram and Twitter, throughout the course of the day and evening, when you hear these lies, outright lies, shame on these Democrats, shame on them for the outright lies that they tell, shame on the fake news media. Some people will say to us, shame on you for supporting the president. No. Shame on you, Democrat liars, for the way you and the fake news media make up things against the president and his record. Well, what you'll find on these social media accounts, you'll find the answers, you'll find the evidence, you'll find the facts to counteract these myths in real time. You're following them on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Again, Team Trump on Instagram, Team Trump on Twitter. Follow them tonight. Official Team Trump on Facebook. You'll get right away video clips. You'll get answers. You'll get responses. You'll see various members of the campaign and the administration talking about the things that are going on. And you will be equipped to answer these myths and these lies, and then you'll be able to share and forward to others. You'll be able to retweet and share the Instagram post and share the information. So this is a great way to help. Now let's go back. Let's go to the back button. Go back to the list where we were before, and look down there again. Let's look at the make calls. Okay, so if you want to make phone calls for the campaign in these final weeks, however much time you can give to it, click on this and let's see what the steps are. What you would do as we scroll down is that you would read that, you would, let's see what it says. Okay, the role. Want to make calls into Florida, Wisconsin, or another presidential battleground state? With Trump Talk, you can call into any state. So in other words, you don't have to be in those states. Obviously, they're going to target the key states. Every state is key. It's just that some decide earlier or in a more stable way or with a stronger majority which way they're going to go. It doesn't mean any state's more important than any other. It means some election to election swing both ways. With Trump Talk, you can call into any state to talk with voters for President Trump. Trump Talk is a phone calling tool that can be used from your home to call other supporters of President Trump from around the country. Contacting voters by phone allows us to persuade potential voters and turn out supporters. Okay, we have to persuade people, and again, these are going to be people who are, we know by the demographics, are persuadable in areas that we need to win. And the other goal here is, okay, you're a Trump supporter, but don't stay at home. Got to get out and vote. This is a beneficial tool. Many voters live in rural areas, gated communities, apartment buildings, and it's harder to contact them by other means like knocking on their doors. So you look at the next steps. You see the 1, 2, 3 there on the lower right-hand side. The next step you would take if you want to do this is you would sign up for an account at Trump Talk, at that website there. You would get an account, it's easy to do, and then you would register for a training in your area. And then it also encourages you there, follow Team Trump, as I was just saying, on various social media platforms. You would find your state party headquarters, and you would text enlist to that same number we were talking about before, 88022, in order to get updates. But get in touch with these folks in this way, and you'll be able to lend your time and your effort to a very important get out the vote activity, making phone calls. In a very similar way, if we go back, go to the back button, and let's go to the knock on doors. You see the third thing there, knock on doors. Let's click on that and scroll down, and you'll see a similar thing. You watch that video, and you take the next steps, which again, the next steps are essentially the same. You sign up for an account, you register for a training, you indicate you would be interested in knocking on doors, and they will take it from there with you, and you can give your help to this very important effort. Okay, armyfortrump.com, that is the overall website. Now let me just say, brothers and sisters, also, and we can leave these websites for the moment, that this election, there are 100,000 races in the elections of 2020. It's not just the presidential race. There's 100,000 races. So what I'm showing you right here is what you can do for the presidential campaign. But remember, if you have a key Senate race in your state, such as, for example, Kansas, Alabama, North Carolina, Georgia has 2 of them, Colorado, Montana, Michigan, Minnesota, you guys have Iowa, you guys have key Senate races, U.S. Senate. We've got to keep the Senate in the hands of those that are going to give us the right kind of judges. We're next week going into the battle for the Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, and we need good senators to confirm these people. Get involved with the campaign of your U.S. senator as well. Your House, the United States House of Representatives, we have got to elect pro-life candidates to the House. And on it goes for the other campaigns. You may have a particular connection with a campaign already, a particular commitment to that candidate. Don't just vote for them. See how you can help with the campaign. So that's my encouragement for you tonight, my message for you tonight. And brothers and sisters, we are going to see tremendous victories. All of us need to do our part. That's the key. All of us need to do our part. And when we do, there is no way to stop this movement. It's a movement. It's not just a campaign. And it's not just an election. It's a war. I'm not exaggerating when I say that the choice we're making now and the effort we need to put into it and the principles we're fighting for are just as consequential, just as urgent as what our founding fathers themselves fought for. Founding fathers themselves. This is a war for the soul of our country. This election is not just a choice between Biden and Trump. This is not just a decision between the Republicans and the Democrats. This is a choice between the culture of life and the culture of death. This is a choice between law and order or mob rule. This is a choice between upholding the Constitution of the United States or being led around by the nose by a corrupt culture. This is a choice between pride in our nation and globalism. It's a choice between national identity and open borders. This is a choice between prosperity and poverty. A choice between religious freedom and religious oppression. This is the choice of our lifetimes. This is the moment that all the training we have had, all the involvement we have had in various causes and movements for social justice and human rights have all been leading up to this moment. And it's all about casting that ballot for those who have proven, have demonstrated that they are on the side of America and of keeping America great. Our Star-Spangled Banner ends with a question. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave or the land of the free and the home of the brave? It's a question, because it's a challenge to you and to me. Does it still wave? Are you still fighting for those ideals of freedom and justice and the right to life? Challenge your fellow citizens. Where do you see those principles in the Democrat platform? Go ahead, show us. People who think that we're ridiculous, show us. Where's the right to life in the Democrat platform? Where's the love for the freedom of the church? Where is it? Show it to us. It's not there. They go in the opposite direction. This president has lifted up millions of people out of poverty and off of food stamps, has increased the median household income, has built us the strongest economy in our history, and after this pandemic now, it is going back up to its previous levels of strength and will continue to grow. He has secured our borders, sent 500,000 criminals who weren't supposed to be in this country in the first place out of this country, defending our Second Amendment, defending our veterans, getting rid of the individual mandate, which was the worst part of Obamacare, defended the unborn in a way that no other president has done, defended freedom of conscience for all of us. And we can go on and on all night with the accomplishments of this president. That's why another concrete action that I ask you to take is to let people, encourage people to watch the rallies. Every single day now, between now and Election Day, we're going to be showing one of the speeches, one of the rallies of our president. Because in those rallies, you catch the enthusiasm, you catch the vision, you understand and you see the accomplishments, and it's a refreshing thing. So, brothers and sisters, let's move forward together. Put the foot on the gas pedal, and everything that you can put aside until after Election Day, November 3rd, it's only 3.5 weeks away. Everything else you can put aside until then, put it aside. And focus just on this. Every day, the question, how can I reach more voters? How can I help more of the campaign? Go to armyfortrump.com. Go to those social media platforms. Make those phone calls. Knock on those doors. Connect with the other campaigns up and down the ticket for our pro-life and Republican candidates, and let's win this victory. So, prayer. We all believe in prayer. You are people of prayer. And you know what? Electionprayer.com is one of the key tools we have as well to win this victory. We are on God's side in this. No question about it. So let's say together now as we conclude the election prayer for life, and then I'll give you a blessing. Oh God, we acknowledge you today as Lord not only of individuals, but of nations and governments. We thank you for the privilege of being able to organize ourselves politically, and of knowing that political loyalty does not have to mean disloyalty to you. We thank you for your law, which our founding fathers acknowledged and recognized as higher than any human law. We thank you for the opportunity that this election puts before us to exercise our solemn duty not only to vote, but to influence countless others to vote and to vote correctly. Lord, we pray that your people may be awakened. Let them realize that while politics is not their salvation, their response to you requires that they be politically active. Awaken your people to know that they are not called to be a sect fleeing the world, but rather a community of faith renewing the world. Awaken them that the same hands lifted up to you in prayer are the hands that pull the lever in the voting booth, that the same eyes that read your word are the eyes that read the names on the ballot, and that they do not cease to be Christians when they enter the voting booth. Awaken your people to a commitment to justice, to the sanctity of marriage and the family, to the dignity of each individual human life, and to the truth that human rights begin when human lives begin, and not one moment later. Lord, we rejoice today that we are citizens of your kingdom. May that make us all the more committed to being faithful citizens on earth And we ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because you, patriots, you and I and tens of millions of others with us in this great movement, it's not just a campaign. It's a movement. We know what to do. We know how to sacrifice. We know how to pray. We know how to pledge, as our founders did, our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor for the great ideals for which this president stands and this party stands and this nation stands. And in that spirit, we will win the victory. Let's go, friends. Let's roll. And let's see the mighty hand of God. God bless you. May the Lord give you His peace and His blessing, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks for joining me. Father Frank Pavone here of Priests for Life. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning.
Hello, I'm Evangelist Alveda King. Day by day, my work with Priests for Life and Father Frank Pavone provides me with many opportunities to speak up for the unborn, whether on television and radio or in conferences with pastors or with government leaders. In order to accomplish all this work, we rely on the donations of individuals like you who believe in this cause and want to help us save lives. May I ask you to support us generously? Go today to prolifegift.org and give as generous a gift as you can. I appreciate it personally and will pray for you each day.
I think we have Richard Lee, we have Jim Garlow, and we have Father Frank Pavone, someplace there in the audience, so I appreciate you